I want to introduce Elvy, who's getting legal cannabis from America and has been for 30 years, I think. She's a Elvy Musikka. Musikka. I just keep thinking of Musikka. Musikka. It's beautiful.
That's good. Music.
Music. And she's a pioneer of changing the laws in America. And she's never been to Australia, and she's a winner. She's a bloody live wire. I've hung out with her a little bit the last 2 days, and, you know, she can hardly see. And if she'd had cannabis all her life, she probably would be seeing okay. Yeah. She's been through shocking operations. It's been a nightmare for her. She's actually a classic example of someone who, if they'd had access to medical cannabis or cannabis, it's all medicine, as far as I can see. If she'd had access to the herb we all love so much years ago, it would have been a different life for her. Anyway, there are plenty of people who would be alive today if they'd had access to medical cannabis, who wouldn't have the shocking conditions that they have to live with every day. Because, you know, the more you see what an amazing healing herb it is, the more you understand why they made it illegal. It's all about money, really. It's very sad because it's a compassionate thing. So I'm super grateful to all of you who've come this weekend, and I don't know, it's an annual event and we all just stand together and back each other and reassure each other they're mad, not us. So welcome, Elvy. She's a beauty.
Thank you,
Doug.
Thank you, Mike.
You're on.
Thank you, all of you. This has been quite an exciting journey. I have been meeting the rest of the family all over the planet, on every state in the Union, all through Scandinavia, Switzerland, taking this issue to Colombia, Jamaica, or rather you have taken me to learn all these things, as you are doing now. I learned from you. My name is Elvy Musikka, and 25 years ago, no, 45, in 1975, 44 years ago, at the end of January, I went for a general checkup, and the doctor was very thorough and discovered that I had incredibly high intraocular pressures. Therefore, glaucoma was going to be a very big reality in my life, and told me I had to start smoking marijuana. I questioned the doctor's sanity because in that area, you know, I knew everything. Just didn't have a clue what he was talking about, but okay. But, you know, necessity will make you try anything. And I had been trying their drops and things, and nothing was working for me. But the first time I tried marijuana, I felt relief. And so for many years, it's kept my glaucoma pressures under control when available. But of course, at that time, nothing was legal in my country that I was aware of. I know that there had been provisions for medical marijuana, that a man called Robert Randall, who was the first one to challenge this law in court and won, and was the first member of the very exclusive elite club to which I belong. Now there's only 2 of us left. He has passed on, and Irving Resonfeld, a stockbroker, is the other member. But we have been, you know, working in our own ways, in any way we can, to educate people, because we know that the only antidote for ignorance is knowledge. And we have the knowledge. And with that knowledge, we have come a long ways in educating legislators all over the world, and in the United States especially. And we have been working with different groups. Some of them work with prisoners of the war on us, as I call it, because there is no war on drugs. More lethal drugs get approved every day by the FDA and the DEA and all the clowns that think they're better than my doctors and think they can provide me with something better than the Creator can make. Yes, please remember this. If you are against cannabis, there's some things you really should consider. I don't care who you are, you're getting older every day, and it happens before you know it. Look, I'm in my 70s now. And when you get to this stage, you're going to find out that there are many, many symptoms that your body just doesn't do as well as it used to. And that's when you begin to really give thanks to the Creator for that incredible plant. As you take fresh leaves and flowers and put them into your blender every morning and watch your body come alive and rebuild, and you have all the desires for all the things you've always loved. Yes, all of them. And so you're learning, and all this time you're learning. For me, it was difficult to even understand that there was no big issue about the fact that we were arresting people every single day to the tune of 250 to 300,000 a year. When I found that out, I could never be quiet again. It was like, no, if I'm not part of the solution, I am the problem. I have a microphone, I have a mouth. Let's use it and educate people, because I don't want the karma that falls on a country that disrespects the Creator's work in such a manner that they risk the planet and the people in it just for the greed and benefits. That's right. In 1619, as far back as in Virginia, Jamestown, Virginia, some of the first laws regarding cannabis in my hemisphere came out as the government said if you owned a farm, it was your responsibility to take a parcel out from the beginning and grow only hemp for the government. Because remember, that was the fuel. Those were the lights. Those were the sails. The U.S. Constitution carried 65 tons of hemp in its building, in its everything. The oakum between the wood is all hemp. The Bibles that were written then and the papers that were important were all written in hand paper. What's the advantage to that? Well, you're not taking nasty chlorine and acid to destroy the lignin on those old trees. You are taking a crop that grows plants as big as 25, 30 feet in one season, in 1 year. You will always have work harvesting the hemp for paper, and you will stop the oxygen. Your oxygen will be safe for you. The benefits are incredible. I found that you could build a home that would be almost fireproof. And as we know, fires and fire are getting more and more fierce all the time. So these houses, they have to be 10,000 degrees before they catch on fire. This material is awesome. The bugs won't be going through it either. Is there a reason why we're still destroying all our old trees for paper? You know how many tons of that happens every day in our planet? Why? Why are we doing that? We need to come back to nature, because nature is our gift. We were given a paradise, and with this prohibition, we're turning it into a hell, which every one of us is expected to have some form of cancer in this lifetime. If we have a good immune system, if you have enough cannabis and hemp seed oil in your system, you just might avoid that, because there is nothing better for your immune system. So, with that alone, that should be mandatory, that everybody knows about cannabis, and that the hemp seed oil and the hearts of the seeds that are so helpful would be part of everyday life like it used to be. That's how we took care of our immune system then. 100 years ago, you could walk into any drugstore and find all kinds of medicines, the basis of which were cannabis. Okay, my parents got brainwashed by reefer madness and Randall Harrison, his press industry, and his hatred for Mexicans because they stopped him from deforesting their land. And so Hearst was printing all these horrific stories about a horrible plant that rattle your brain to the point that you go kill your family and do this. Yeah, there were some sick people that actually did do that, but I don't think it had a thing to do with cannabis, because that just doesn't inspire you to go killing. It's a peace object. Therefore, it was not recognized as something we should have by the people who wanted wars all the time, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. We had to make sure these hippies didn't go peaceful on you and not want to fight. It is hard for kids who have been taught supposedly a golden rule to grow up and be given a rifle at 18 and say to go kill other people's kids, only this is okay. It does cause problems, mental problems. We have a rate of suicide amongst ex-military that is frightening. But, it has its reasons. Peace and love is what's promoted with this plan. It does inspire spirituality. There is no doubt about that. I am so thankful every day of my life for my cannabis family. That's all of you, all over the world, trying to change things and make this world right. And it will be, because Jack Hare said, hemp can save the planet. You're familiar with The Emperor Wears No Clothes? Okay, that was my guru. That was my eye-opener. That's when I found out that we were arresting all those people. That's when I vowed I would stand with you and by you until either 50 years are up or you change the law, okay? But I still got 6 more years to go on the 50, so get on it. So that's it. Now the clothes. This is hemp, 100% hemp. My sweater is wool and hemp. And that's all the hemp I'm wearing today, I'm sorry to say. I don't have as much as I used to. It was everywhere in the 90s when I was traveling. And now you have a hard time. You go to these conventions and what you find is a bunch of vape pens and chatter and that kind of thing. No more emphasis on the clothes and that kind of thing. And that's kind of sad for me, because I think we all should be wearing hemp every day of our lives. I really do. And you can make from lace to silk to bushel holders, the hemp bales. It is so versatile that it has taken 50,000 chemical, mostly petrol products, to replace it. Now, that kind of destruction cannot go on. Your planet will not be able to do anything for you. You won't destroy the planet, it'll be here. But it will shake us off like fleas or ticks if we don't shape up and fly right. We don't have a choice. Time is now. Next year, the United Nations is going to meet in Washington, D.C. Supposedly, one of the things that will be considered will be this prohibition. Please be counted. Whatever legislators you have here in your parliament, make sure they know how you feel. We educate doctors and legislators. That's the greatest part of our work. Educating each other through conferences and things, we find that our symbiotic connection with this plant goes back to the beginning of time. We have receptors in our brain and all over our body that when you use the herb, whether you eat it or smoke it, whichever way you use it, it's like putting a glove on a hand. It will take care of so many things. When I was looking for it, of course, what I found was a lot of prejudice, but a lot of support too, even though everybody was hush, hush. And the doctors would say, whatever you're doing is working, keep doing it, but we're telling you this as your friend, not your doctors. My doctors in Oregon, today where I live, I cannot find one single doctor who will stand up and take over my case so I don't have to go to Florida to pick up my medicine from Oregon every year. So what happens is that this plant has been vilified and devil-made, and it is your responsibility, especially if you consider yourself any kind of a religious person. I don't know of any religion that can justify treating sick people the way we do with this prohibition and not doing everything you can to change it. In my country, 25 million of us, 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's incarceration. 25 million families have been touched with this idiot. And we say we're for family values. Well, those of us who have been arrested and those who have criminal records now cannot even rent a place. The first thing they ask is, have you ever been arrested? They don't even care to know the answer to why you were or what was the result, the consequence. Getting a home is very difficult. And nobody can figure out why we have so many homeless people in the United States. Just don't have a hint. Yeah. But you cannot criminalize 25 million people and not have severe consequences that come back to haunt you. Me, I'm just one individual. There was a lady with a powdered nose, if you get my drift, in the 90s, going around telling us all to just say no to our medicine and everything else. With a powdered nose now. You get my drift, right? Powdered nose. She does cocaine, in other words. That's Mrs. Reagan. Yeah. Nancy, just say no. Yeah, I agree, but put a K and a W on that no, and I might be happy with you and join you. But that was not the goal. What it did for me was I stopped looking for work. By then I had been to too many surgeries to avoid smoking marijuana because that was going to damage my brain, and I forget what else was going to happen to me 44 years ago. Luckily, I'm not too afraid of it now. But I went ahead and continued to use it, and when my sight in the right eye was totally gone through 12 years of hell, and every surgery, everyone, no exception, left me with last sight. And they wanted to start on both eyes, and I said, no, you take care of one, and when that works, then we'll talk about the other one. I gave them my better eye. Was destroyed. In a life where I lived in hell, where everything was changing, I no longer have my job at the bank to support me and my kids. I was starting to become your burden. I retired at 42, definitely not ready for retirement. And the consequences have been, of course, poverty, denial of all kinds of things, and the stigma that goes with being a medical patient. Why? Because you have over 5 generations of lies and misinformation. It does not render us as nations capable of making rational decisions. It doesn't happen. In the dark world of ignorance, it doesn't happen. Well, we took to the road and things began to change. There were several of us who came together right after '88, coincidentally. In 1988, Francis L. Young, who was the lead judge for the DEA, the administrative law judge. And he listened to suits from Normal and other entities and arguments for and against legalization of cannabis as medicine. He said he studied 5,000 years of medicine and he could not find a single sentence that would point to him as to any one deathbeat having happened as a result of cannabis. He said that it was by far the most benign substance known to mankind. He said that his own agency had no right to provide that kind of suffering for our sake. This is their own judge now. Did they hear a word he said? No. And you know what's so sad? He became a patient 2 years later and died soon thereafter without ever knowing his legal marijuana when he tried to do so much for us. I took that testimony he gave and took it on the road with me. That was my main source of information. That along with what the activists were teaching me. They were going to Blackstone law commentaries and saying, and I think this applies to all of us here in Australia as it did in England, as it did in the United States. Law commentaries, Blackstone law commentaries, clearly state that when a man-made law is contrary to the law of nature, it has no validity anytime under any circumstances. So, in other words, this is a blasphemy against the Creator's work, and don't you forget it. Because if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem. And we're all getting older, and those who stand against us, my satisfaction there is, well, they'll either have to come around and use it so they can have a better old age, as I'm having, or they're going to suffer and suffer unnecessarily way more than I ever will, and I can sit there and laugh at them. That's all. I'm sorry for you, but I have to laugh. So learn what it is. My main goal has been on the road to teach, to make sure all the schools, the medical schools, whether it's nursing, veterinarian, any kind of medical school has to teach the pupils about the endocannabinoid system and the benefits of this cannabis, because it is interactive, it is intermittent at every level. We are interacting with it all the time. It's in our brain before we were ever born. It's even on the squid have it. All the living things have some cannabis in them, and your baby has marijuana in its system when it's born, because my brain made that. Your mommy's brains do that. Put it in their milk too. So yeah, that's why immune is not that important right after birth. But it's all there. Mother Nature's got all the answers. We provide the disasters, and nature tries to help us and show us the way out. It's up to us to study the endocannabinoid system at every school. And every legislator, needs to be contacted by phone, by internet, by whichever way you can. Be good with your notes. Write your editorials to your papers. They are a great source of communication and community service together and all that kind of thing that is so necessary now more than ever. So just the endocannabinoid system, talk to your legislators. Those are the things that I'm most interested in doing now. That's what I want to work with. And I would be counting on you to be doing that with me, because it's when we all come together that we do change laws. Now, we have to be careful, like Adele said it yesterday, there are bad laws too. You don't need to be writing bad laws. Bad laws hurt good people. Pay attention. What I'm seeing now is really scary. I'm seeing that all our cannabis laws are being dictated by the tobacco, alcohol, by the arms dealers. And so, they're going along for now, but what they really are doing is creating more and more difficulties so that before they're through, we will all be illegal and criminals as we always have been. Don't let it continue. We have a break. We're stopping that now. So from there on to where we go is the future. The future should be very bright. The ozone is already being reported. We are reoxygenating the planet, because the hemp is growing all over this world. A little bit here, a lot there, a little bit more there. And before you know it, hemp will save the planet just as it has been forecasted. So I would like to know if does anybody here have any questions? And I don't see you, so speak up.
Yeah, Elvy, I've actually got a question.
Yes.
So the embassy's had a bit of legal trouble this week, but the week started off with some funny trouble for you when you arrived in Australia, right, on Monday. What happened?
I had my medicine comes in a tin that's a month's supply, so I usually carry the tin in case I get stranded somewhere or stuck, and I carry a month's supply even if I'm only here for 3 weeks. But So
Yes.
300 joints come in that, and they actually look like a Pall Mall cigarette. I always used to refer to them as my green Pall Malls. And, oh, by the way, the worst monkey on my back ever has been nicotine. I had a deadly addiction to that drug, which kills 1 million of us in this planet every day. Every day. Should you make it illegal? Well, no, that'll just make people go to the black market and get it. Education, again, education. But anyway, you just go from one thing to another and you eliminate whatever it is that isn't working, but always substituting it with a solution. That's the most important thing now when we're trying to change a law. Is it just getting rid of the law so that there is confusion and all that, or substituting it with comprehensible, humane, compassionate laws? We need to care for each other and our planet. There is no time to continue destruction. Tesla and his theories on electricity could make us totally independent of petrol in no time if we know what he did, and the information is all out there, and we can get back to that world that we had 1,000 years ago. I don't know when all this insanity really became insane. It's in the last 400, 500 years. as we've been conquered from here and there and everywhere. So what else? What else can I answer?
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, people are a bit quiet, Elvy.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you are knowledgeable. You don't really need a whole lot from me. But
Oh, we have a question over here. Just one moment.
what is it?
Yeah. Hello, Elvy. Just
Hi.
like to thank you for your brilliant presentation. And I'd like to pass the comment that it's looking around, there's probably 30 people here. It's a shame there's not 30,000. And I have a friend in Oregon who I worked with some years ago, and I have the impression that Oregon is I've always thought it was a fairly advanced state of America. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I most definitely would, because we're very progressive,
Yep,
and
that's
we
the
work,
word.
and we work with our legislators. There is no getting around that.
Right.
We have to, but they work with us, and so it works well for that. However, don't ask me what the law is regarding this or that today, because it changes like the weather. What is today may not have a thing to do with tomorrow, or had nothing to do with yesterday. So good luck on that one, trying to figure it out.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, we're great. We work together. On all
Sorry,
things.
Elvy, did something happen when you were bringing your medicine into our country? Did I hear that did something happen with?
Yeah, I had a prescription, was well documented, and I had that tin with a month supply that hadn't even been opened. And then I had some cookies because it was a long, chocolates and cookies for my, no, not chocolates, just cookies, and I had some capsules for sleeping because I definitely deal with insomnia if I don't have cannabis. So those were there. The prescription with my doctor's names, my attorney's names, my documentation is there, but they still decided that New Zealand doesn't have to honor prescriptions. I don't understand that. I felt like asking, if this was your grandmother on Prozac, would you be giving her a hard time? I don't know the answer. I think I do. So I don't know. They took it away. Then I begged them. I said, since this prescription has cost me an eye, years of hell, and all change of life, not all for the better. Though the better did come in that I got to meet all of you, and that is the difference. And yeah, so do we want to keep it in this limbo state, or do we gotta make it legal? You can't go through airports without feeding the law enforcers your supply of medicine. Anyone else steals your medicine, they'll take them to jail, right? But not if it's marijuana. And in my country, we have a constitution to protect us, but it doesn't apply to pot smokers anyway. We break their constitutional rights every day, every way we can. I'm sure you have the same here without the Constitution, but, I don't know.
So, Elvy, with the 300 green Pall Malls you get every month from the feds, is the pot any good?
The pot is Mexican seeds grown at the University of Mississippi. And I hear it's over a silver mine or something, over some metal mine. I don't know if that's true. But what I do know is that they say they have the low quality, medium, and high. Their high quality is 5.9%. We don't even buy that in Oregon if we want THC. We find that everything works best with like 17, for me, 26, 17, 23, anywhere between the teens, high teens, and the 20s works incredibly well for me. What's the difference? When I took the government pot only, I definitely had to do 10 joints a day. And those joints are almost a gram each. When I use real marijuana, good cannabis, 3 or 4 of those are more than plenty for the day supply. So that's the difference. You get it, you get your concentrates, you get your good pot, and you don't need to use, I use 6 months of the government pot when I go back to Oregon, carrying it on my backpack. and the other 6 months comes out of the state of Oregon. Here's the deal. The 6 months from Oregon are not 6 pounds, 3 pounds, are 1.5 pounds. So actually it cuts my intake by using that quite a bit percent, a high percentage. And that's how I use it. So for me, I have tinctures that go on my oils that go on my salads that I cook with. Every which way, my prescription reads to be smoked or eaten, but they still took it. I guess they might need to smoke it or eat it. I don't know. I was hoping one of them would eat one of those cookies that I had, because you would have read about them going to the hospital with hysterical paranoia.
You never know. They'll never tell you. It would have been one of the most unusual drug busts that the Australian Federal Police would have had at Brisbane Airport, right? Yeah, so have to remember that.
Right.
And what is cool, by the way, is they didn't charge Elvy. So we've had, a few years ago, we had another guest from Colorado come in with cannabis, and he was, of course, detained at the airport as well, and he was actually charged and had to go to court here in Australia before he left. So you got off on that one, Elvy. So that's also a bit of an amazing thing. So, guys, Elvy brought in 300 cannabis cigarettes and heaps of edibles, and she walked free from the airport. So Australia's not too bad, hey?
Lovely, lovely people, and you're wise, and I know you're not going to let this go on forever because you got common sense. Nobody with half a brain really appreciates this war. It's only when you're ignorant and don't know any better that you accept this nonsense. Once your eyes are open, you can't go back to the dark night of ignorance. This is how I said, everybody says, California made it legal in 1996. Yeah, but prior to that, we were working on town initiatives, and Dennis Perron had made it legal in San Francisco. Val Corral, another big activist that I really love dearly, she had a group in Santa Cruz, and we all worked with her, and we passed laws in Santa Cruz protecting our patients back in 92. The big thing was, of course, and we all worked on the initiative for the legalization of medical in 96. And I was so happy that they invited me to work on that initiative. To me, that night was like the dark night of ignorance was over. The break of day was coming through that dark tunnel. Maybe it was a little faint light at the end, but we could never go back to the dark night of ignorance. We had no choice but to move forward. From there on, we just started working on different states, and we have more than 30 of them legalized, some of them for everything. My state has hemp bills going and are growing commercial hemp. My state is also, of course, legal for anyone over 21, and medical, there's no question about it. We actually have more dispensaries than Starbucks.
Good.
Yeah, we don't have a problem finding our medicine there. So,
Yep.
that's
So Elvy, Dennis Perron actually came and spoke at MardiGrass,
Yeah.
God, probably 20 years ago, as in a long time ago. Late 90s, I think, yeah.
that's when we were all hip and working together. I came to California, the first thing he says, Elvy, forget about Florida, move over here. This is where the work is at. I'll get you, you can have an apartment right here, down here, below where I live. I said, wow. Okay, but I didn't do that. I was afraid to live in San Francisco. I did come back and work with them, definitely, again and again. In fact, by 2000, I packed my things, sold the house, and moved from Florida to California. But by then, the international work had begun. I was traveling to the Netherlands. High Times Magazine took me there in 92 as Freedom Fighter of the Year. And then back in 2000 as one of the goddesses. They've been very good to us. And they used to sponsor us on the road. I had a thrilling experience in 1990. I found a group of young people. Not all the serious groups would consider me because I didn't have a law degree and I didn't have a medical degree. I didn't have a degree, period. The University of Life was teaching me everything, but I didn't have papers to prove it. So, but the kids didn't care. There was this group called Cannabis Action Network, mostly some young girls that got together, used to travel with Jack, and decided they wanted to do their own thing. And they got Jack's help and everybody else's help, and they asked me to join them on a tour, and I volunteered for a month. Figured that way I wouldn't hurt anybody's feelings if I couldn't work it with them. But I went on the road with those kids, and I loved it. I always wanted a large family, but I only had 2 children, and which was a good idea. But now I had my big family traveling with me all over the country, teaching me all the things I know today. We were going to a university at every state we went through. We would do 65 dates in 75 days. We would just barely get to that town, be packing to go to the next one and the next one. Every fall and every spring. This laws didn't change accidentally. Took a lot of education, a lot of meeting with legislators at every capital. I was able to smoke in front of most of them without any hassle whatsoever, because I was a federal patient. So I don't think it's like that anymore. We're more restricted now. Oregon is a great example of being free for everyone, unless you're poor, and then you got a problem, because if you have to, if you were left homeless because of the disasters we did with those bad laws that hurt good people, well, that's too bad, because you can't, in your apartments that are for low-income people, you cannot smoke near them. You can't smoke in the sidewalk. You can't smoke anywhere. You can. So I don't know where it is legal, because I have to go sing into my bathroom, smoking ain't allowed in school. You know?
Yeah. Elvy, we have another question.
Sure.
October last year, I was given the therapeutic goods approval for medical cannabis. Prior to that, I was on 2 different types of opiates and an anti-inflammatory. While I was taking the opiates, I could legally drive, but if I take a dose of cannabis, I can't drive at all. How do they handle the driving under the influence back home? How do they rate what is impaired and what's safe? And
Yeah, and that is so individual, too. Titrating is one of the most difficult parts, where the doctors have a hard time because they don't even know how to prescribe, because everybody's got a different metabolism. Every plant you smoke is different than the one before. So that is a job, and actually doctors and patients, but the patients have to take the responsibility to learn what works for them. Like they do in Israel, in the old people's homes now. This is so amazing. They get everybody's medicine, whatever medicines they have, they can continue to use. As far as cannabis goes, they encourage everyone there to use it, even people who never have used it before. But even those who use, like I do, 10 joints a day or whatever, they have to start back at the minimum dose and work it up in the next week or 2 until it is to the level that you need, and that is ideal, because that's working out very well. And the abuse of the staff from the Alzheimer's patients and from the people who were on bad drugs but now are on pot, the change has been phenomenal. I hope they keep working on that, because I would be looking for a home someday. And when it happens, I want to be, if it's not cannabis friendly, I can't go there. I need to have my cannabis every day, contrary to your authorities believe, or mine for that matter.
Elvy, just on that, with the Israel example, and is the method that people are having that medicine through smoking it?
Well, smoking is really, truly the fastest way to get for the pain, and that it is the quickest way. And I think most people do still smoke it, but now there are so many other choices that people like me, we just combine it sometimes. We smoke it, sometimes we eat it. I feel good if I have a capsule in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 2 at night to go to sleep. But in between those capsules, I will pick up and smoke, and it won't be so urgent that I do it every 2 hours like I did before, because I have it in my system. Eating it seems to keep it in your system better, so that is that advantage. It lasts longer. You also have to use more, so it's a trade-off.
Great. Well, Elvy, I think we'll wrap it up there, and it's so exciting that you came. Thank you very much. And yeah, we hope you come back and visit us again in the future.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
I can't thank you enough. My Cannabis family, I love you, I love you, I love you. You belong to every segment of this society. You have every size and shape. Your financial status ranges from dirt poor to millionaires. I mean, religions, doesn't matter what religion you are, you will find people smoking cannabis. We have the largest minority in the world. And if we realize that and use that power to get onto our legislators and to the UN and all those people that have made such a nightmare of our lives, we'll win. We will win.